I'm sure many of us know someone, if not you, who's felt uncomfortable talking about religion and money or just have feelings of shame or guilt about it. Welcome to Yahweh's Money, a podcast where we discuss the crossroads or intersections of religion and money. We're going to go deep into topics like tithing and saving and debt and so much more from the religious view. I'm your host, Shay Cook, CEO and founder, Crusaders for Change, LLC, and our co-host is Vanessa McNelley, one of our financial counselor, coach, educators. Let's talk about God and money. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Yahweh's Money. I am Shay, your host. Joining me today and every day in every episode is Vanessa, our co-host. Say hi, Vanessa.
Hi, guys. I cannot believe it's been 15 episodes.
Oh
That's
my
crazy.
God. I know. It's awesome. God is so
Yeah.
good. 15 episodes, and episode 15 is From Debt to Destiny. So we're going to get deep into moving from debt that might be causing you shame or making you just feel a certain way and feeling like you're not living up to God's promise, moving into destiny and fulfilling your promise with God. So our destiny is evident in God's promise to us, but debt can sometimes cripple us, keeping us from stepping into our destiny, as I said. So why do you think that is, Vanessa?
I think it has a lot to do with patience. And I
Mm,
think we're one of those societies where we want everything now and we don't want to wait on things. So
mm-hmm.
sometimes we create debt, to kind of get those things quicker and faster instead of sitting there and waiting and praying and, letting it happen, which, I feel like we have to work for that too. But I think sometimes, we don't want to take the proper steps and we want things to happen now or
Now.
yesterday. So I think we do it to ourselves a lot.
I agree, and it also comes from that place of fear or just feeling
Mhm.
unworthy or just plain on having a lack of faith. And God is going to provide for you. And you're like, well, I'm going to provide for myself, or I'm feeling a void or a hole inside of me with things because I'm missing that relationship with God or with a partner or whatever you might be, that void that you have from you, maybe some trauma from childhood or many different reasons why people move into debt, just continuously buying themselves things on credit, or through loans and so forth, because they are fear or afraid of what that void would feel like if they're not constantly filling it, which, as we know, I'm not going to go into the whole therapy piece of it. That's very important. I probably should. But constantly buying stuff to fill a void is just so temporary, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think we do that, to show people we care about them and love them too.
Mm,
And we create debt for ourselves by showing others, and giving to others a lot of times as well. So, it can be twofold. It can be, a good reason because we want to give and we want to help. But at the
mm.
same time, we're not in a position where we can really do it at that moment.
Or we don't understand what we're doing.
Hmm.
When I was younger in college, getting those credit cards, using, those credit cards to buy clothes, to get my hair done, to go party and all of that, and building up all this debt that I would later pay off, but wasn't really thinking about, the future. And like I said, living
Right.
in the now, dealing with the whole FOMO. Oh, I'm gonna miss out on going to the club on Friday. I gotta get me a new outfit. I don't know why I felt like I had to get a new outfit every time I went to the club. And the outfit was always a new, a dress or a skirt and a top or pants and shoes. And then you have to get the earrings and then all the other fake jewelry I was getting back in the day. Oh, and then I gotta get my hair done, and then I gotta get the makeup, and then I gotta get the eyebrows done. And it was like a whole
Mhm.
situation every time I went to the club. And let me tell you guys, I was going to the club like 1 to 3 times a week. So
Oh my
52
gosh.
weeks in a year
But
for
hey, Shay, you look
2 years.
good. You
That
look
was
good
a
doing it.
lot of debt. For what?
Right.
Why? Because I was, I had to be in the in crowd, and honestly, I was leading the crowd. I wasn't following nobody. People were following me. So they were following me. And then you go to the club, you got to pay for it. And then you got to go to IHOP or somewhere to get breakfast afterwards. And then you got to have gas to get in there with your car. And, all of that money. Now, and I've never really broken it down like that until this day,
Hmm.
realizing why? Why was I doing that? To
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
cool? And then thousands and thousands of dollars of debt
Right.
that I,
Well, I will tell
yeah, it's
you,
crazy.
Shay, we led very different lives in college. I was the girl sitting at home with a Blockbuster account that I shared with a friend, so I didn't
Oh,
have to pay the full
wow.
$8 a month. So, I think it comes from, it really depends on who we hang out with too. Like you
Mhm.
said, who we surround ourselves with. I was lucky to have friends that were very money conscious early on. And, we were like, no, we're going to stay home and we're going to save money because we didn't have it. But I think it's so easy to kind of fall in that routine of I want it now. I don't want to wait. I want to have fun today and enjoy today. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just knowing when you can and to hold off if you can't.
Exactly. Exactly. Because in Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." So, as long as God, who knows your future, provides our agenda and goes with us as we fill his mission, we can have hopeless, boundless hope, is what I should say. So, we constantly, worried about what we want. What does God want for us?
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're like, oh, I need to have all of this, and I wasn't thinking about this when I was in my 20s or in my teens. But what does God want me to do today? Does he want me not to go to the club and buy all this? I wasn't thinking about what God wanted for me. I was thinking about what I wanted for me. So I
Right.
think it's important to understand, if you have a relationship with God and whatever religion you are, to have that conversation with God. And then we were talking on our earlier episode, the why. Why are we doing this? Why are we
Hmm.
building all of this debt?
Yeah, and two, I think it's one of those things where I truly believe that, God knows everything that's going to happen in our future. He gives us the ability to make choices, but He already knows what we're going to choose and how we're going to walk through life. So I feel like He knows, when we're going to have these minutes of stumbling and kind of going back for a second and having to readjust. So I feel like, those are all kind of written out because He knows what we're going to do, but he knows the plan and he knows the outcome at the very end. And that's what really, really matters. So we have to be able to say, okay, let's take a second, let's pray on it, let's think on it. And what makes the most sense for what's going on in my life at the moment.
Exactly. Because, trust in the Lord with all your heart
Hmm.
and lean not on your own understanding. And all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. And that's Proverbs 3:5-6. I know my mom loves that passage, that scripture. And it's so true. Like you're saying, we need trust in God because he knows what we're going to do. He knows when we're going to mess up. He knows when we're going to do good. And he's always going to be there to provide for us.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And I feel like, when we trust, we're given clarity. And
Hmm.
I think sometimes we miss that clarity if we are, thinking about what are others doing. I want this today. I want to go on that trip. I want this really nice house. If I don't make an offer today, it's not going to be there.
Exactly.
Those type of things that we really, we make these hasty decisions that we really need to take some time because if it's supposed to happen and if it's meant for us, then that path will be laid in front of us.
Yeah.
Whether we take a second and just kind of make sure the numbers work out so we can afford those payments. Or who knows, maybe we're supposed to move to another state, next month, and we don't know that today. So I think if we can just take a second and we know and we trust, then that path, yeah, will definitely be laid ahead of us.
But what if you're impatient and you're like, and what are you like,
Hmm.
well, I haven't heard from God today, so I'm just going to move. And it's like, usually what I've learned is God, like you said, you've got to be still and you have to
Right.
wait and there has to be a quiet time for you to real, because,
Hmm.
hearing from your spirit and God, there is always heard and always read. It's very quiet, faint
Yeah.
feelings. You might get it in a dream. It all depends on people. God is
Hmm.
not screaming at us, don't go buy those clothes. He's not going to do that. And
Right.
so sitting back and being still and in your spirit and
Hmm.
listening to that may take time. But then on the
Right.
flip side, you might be paralyzed by fear, or I don't know, it takes you, like me, 5 years, 6 years, 8 years to get a new phone or a computer. I'll just let it go down to
Hmm.
its last leg because I'm too scared to spend the
Hmm.
money. So that's on the other side of the spectrum. So when do when do you know when God
Yeah.
is speaking to you?
I feel like when the answer is clear, then you know without a doubt what's supposed to happen. There is no doubt in your mind that you're supposed to make that decision. You're supposed to pull the trigger on that item, whatever it is. But if you have doubts and something inside of you is saying, I don't know if this is 100% what's supposed to happen, then that's there for a reason, in my opinion. There's a reason that we know what's supposed to happen and we have that peace about it. And I think that comes with so many things in life is waiting until we have that peace and clarity. And sure, it's hard. I mean, there are so many times I have wanted something or seen something, or, there was one spot left for this amazing vacation that I want to go on. And, if you have concerns and you have these worries, there's a reason for it.
There's a
So,
reason. That is
mhm.
so true. And have you ever dealt with shame around debt or helped others deal with it?
Yeah, I think, with what we do, we see a lot of people who come to us in that 11th hour when they've made these decisions and they've just gotten themselves deeper and deeper and deeper into these situations where they can't really dig out by themselves. And they have a lot of shame with that. There's a lot of shame with, oh, well, I can't, drive to work today because I don't have money to fix my car because I've, spent XYZ dollars on, this event or my kids' prom dresses or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's, dealing with that ourselves and knowing that there's no reason to be ashamed about something that happened if we're willing to put in the work and the effort to move out from that because we were put in that place for a reason. And
Yeah,
one day we might have this amazing story to tell that could really help other people not get in that position at all.
that's so true. Going through that test creates a
Hmm.
testimony later on. So that's very true.
Exactly.
And a poll by the National Foundation for Credit Counseling conducted asked participants to finish this sentence: I would be most embarrassed to admit my. Surprisingly, 37% of respondents answered that their credit card debt was the most embarrassing, followed by 30% of respondents admitting they wouldn't want to fess up to their credit score. And I see that a lot, as I'm sure you have, Vanessa, with clients. People are like, even though now everybody has Credit Karma, and there's some, I don't want to talk
Right.
bad about Credit Karma, but there's some reasons why you should and shouldn't use that. But they're like, oh, well, it's 600, it's 500, it's going, it fluctuates between the three major credit
Right.
bureaus. And some people just don't really know because they're so embarrassed by it. And the credit card debt is crazy. And even, I'm seeing more people embarrassed by their student loan debt. So, because there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that people have. And, so it's a shame that people feel that way, but you just have to live in it and use it to your, for your good, because God's going to use it for your good.
Hmm.
And see how you can get away from that. And then, like you said, be able to have a testimony to be able to share, yeah, one time I had a credit score of 500, or I had $100,000 credit card debt. Well,
Hmm.
I buckled down, got my stuff together, and now I see, I'm clear and I'm good, and I don't have to worry about that again, hopefully.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And, I'm sure a lot of our single listeners have seen on different dating apps, people say, credit score above 780, or, you have to
really?
have, yeah, it's all over the place. It's so funny when I read that because I get excited. I'm like, huh, I like this person. Uh, but, people are really paying more attention when they are purposeful about their spending. They want partners who are purposeful with their spending as
Mm,
well. And I'm not saying like if you find the right person and they have a bad credit score, don't be
yeah.
with them, but be mindful that that is how that person has chosen to kind of, establish themselves. Now, if they're working towards making better decisions, that's a completely different story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but you're seeing it all over the place that people are paying more attention, which does mean there is more shame with people who don't have, the
Mm.
scores or, the zero debt like other people are having.
Wow, I didn't know that it was a thing. I guess I've been married for 23 years. I don't know what's going on in the single world, but I always used to tell people, though, especially my
Hmm.
service members, when I was helping them, like, when you're dating, you need to make sure you check their credit score and run a
Right.
background check whatever you can, because you never
Exactly.
know,
Hmm.
And then I meet a lot of couples that are, it seems to always be, there's a spender and there's a saver. I've never met two savers together or two spenders together, so that can cause conflict. But there also can be some shame around that too, as a couple, like
Yeah.
well, they're more responsible in saving, but I just have this urge to spend. And then the other one's
Hmm.
like, what are you doing? And there's arguments and craziness. And as we know, I'm sure I haven't checked the numbers recently, but the most common reason for people to get divorced is because of some kind of money, and it's usually the communication piece of it. But
Definitely.
I'm sure there's shame around that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and you even find yourself in these positions where the spender in a lot of circles would still be the saver.
Mm,
It's just the other person is on such an extreme
yeah,
saving streak,
that's true.
that, they look for somebody who's going to kind of push them out of their comfort zone too and help
Hmm.
them do things and see things that they've not done before. I was in a relationship for, 8 years with my ex husband who would literally save everything he had until it was, out of date, no good, whatever, even if it was food because
Oh,
he was
wow.
just always saving, saving, saving. And it got
Hmm.
to the point where he was saving until it no longer benefited him at all because he would have
Wow.
to throw things away. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of
It's
wasteful then.
exactly, exactly. But
Yeah.
they see it as trying to just save as much as possible and be as
Mm,
responsible. And they don't see that end outcome.
wow. Wow. Well, in Isaiah 61:7, it says, instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. And so you will inherit a double portion in your land, and everlasting joy will be yours. What does that say to you, Vanessa?
It says a lot. It
Mm,
shows you that because you are doing the right things and you're making that sacrifice now,
mm-hmm.
it's going to pay off in the end. You may
Exactly.
not have what you want now, you'll always have what you need,
Mm-hmm.
but you may not have what you want now, but later on, it is going to be absolutely amazing. And it's so
Exactly.
worth that sacrifice. And that can be taken in so many ways. Even, right now we may not have it, but in 20 years we may have it.
Hmm.
And, I always think about my grandpa with this. He literally calls me sometimes and he's like, I have this money left over and I don't know what to do with it. That is
Wow.
such a good problem to have.
Exactly.
And it's because he's always been so responsible. He's always given. He has a monthly budget of what he gives
Mm,
away to people. And he has truly been blessed because of
yeah,
that, with the ability to give more and do more and be a part of these things he normally wouldn't be able to be a part of.
that's beautiful. It's a beautiful story. And just to me, it says faith, like you said,
Yep.
and sacrifice too. Just having that faith in God. You don't have to have shame. We're human. We're going to make mistakes, but
Yeah.
let's focus on taking care of others, doing God's work. And, you can rejoice in your inheritance because instead of feeling disgrace, you're like, you know what? I made a mistake, but I am
Mm-hmm.
okay. I'm going to move forward and I'm going to fail forward. I'm going to do my best that I can. And God is going to provide
Right.
continuously throughout whatever mistakes I make.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, you're learning from them because as I was telling my daughter recently, she was saying something it was unrelated to finances, but I was like, "You're gonna learn a lesson from all of this," and she's like, "I'm so tired of this," like why do I always got to learn a lesson? I'm like, that's just what
Right.
life is. Life is
Yeah.
lessons, and if you're constantly not learning a lesson
Right.
from the same thing. It may not look the same, but it's usually the
Mm-hmm.
same thing happening over and over, then there's a problem. So God is
Exactly.
constantly putting that similar situation in your life
Mm-hmm.
every year or so because you need to
Mm-hmm.
learn a valuable lesson from that. And it's the same goes with money. Okay, you had a bad credit score. Okay, well, let's fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just deal with that and rejoice in it when it goes up. And let's not make the same mistakes so it doesn't go down. you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that shows that you have truly learned, from what has happened in the past. And that's what it's all about.
that's what it's all about.
All about. And I think a lot of times we guilt ourselves and we have more shame and we are harder on ourselves than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Especially those of us who really want to do what's best and really try. And I think
Mm-hmm.
because of that it's easier to learn, when
Yeah.
you are hard on yourself because you're like, okay, know what I did before. I'm going to try not to do it again. And you feel good when you've moved past that. It's such a good feeling and it's so worth it.
It's so true. And you're so right. It's shame is more is usually comes from within than I mean, of course there's occasions where your parents might shame you. I
Right.
know sometimes I'll tell my mom, don't be shaming me. You know, it's like but usually I'm just projecting, you know, because I'm
Mhm.
shaming myself, but I'm feeling like she's shaming me. But yeah, it's just it's usually since we know we're harder, like you said, on ourselves than anybody else, and we need to forgive ourselves.
Mhm.
And forgiveness is key because I know I see a lot of people struggling with that, like really just have such a hard time forgiving themselves about something they did. And then they repeat the cycle and they're like, why are you going to keep on repeating? Because, first of all, you need to forgive. And then you have to do the work of whatever that looks
Mhm.
like from, paying off your debt and,
Right.
disputing any, any discrepancies on your credit report, whatever that looks like to repair your credit. But let's not hold on to what you did in 1999
Mhm.
or 2010 or whatever. Let that
Yeah.
go. Forgive yourself. Okay, you messed up. Okay, but let's not hold on to that and you're like still feeling a certain way.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think too, we have to think about the whole picture. Like, are we being enabled to continue to
Mm.
make those decisions? And
Yep.
if we are, who is doing that? And how do we kind of move away from that as well?
Yeah.
Because we're not learning when that happens over and
Mm-hmm.
over again. And somebody always makes it better for us. We need to learn how to do it ourselves because one day that person's probably not going to be there to make it happen.
Most
And we've had
likely.
all these chances.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Them dang on parents and and older siblings or aunts and uncles
Hmm.
that are constantly enabling people. It's usually parents enabling the younger ones or whoever.
Right.
That they can't never learn their lesson because they have a
Hmm.
crutch, and like you said,
Right.
somebody's always there to save them, and sometimes they need to fall and feel it, and
Yep.
it's okay. You're not going to die. You're going to get back
Hmm.
up. You're going to have a little wound.
Right.
But your that wound is going to constantly remind you that
Hmm.
you can do it by yourself, or at least with God.
Right.
You don't have to necessarily be
Yeah.
by yourself, but you don't need outside help from a family member
Hmm.
or a friend.
Yeah. And, I think we're always being prepared for what's coming later
Mm-hmm.
and being able to know how to handle these situations on our own and to be stronger for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something, when that happens, we're not ready for. So
Yeah.
I think as we grow and we learn and it's like, I've got this, I did it. I'm gonna own it. Number one, I'm gonna own it. And then be thankful for that situation because you have
Mm-hmm.
learned from it.
I agree because I really don't have any regrets in life,
Yeah.
because I know they were all for a reason. Everything I
Hmm.
went through, there's been some really hard times financially or outside of that. That's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But then on the other side, it's
Right.
like, oh my God, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
thank you that one time I didn't, my credit score wasn't perfect. At one time, I
Right.
was in a lot of debt. At one time,
Hmm.
I couldn't make, he wasn't able to pay my bills. At one time, I was struggling with food. I've struggled through all that stuff financially. So on the other side, not
Hmm.
only am I grateful, I've learned how not to hopefully never go back to that. And if we do, there's ways to I can help. I've been through it, so I can get through it. But
Right.
able, obviously, as a financial counselor and a coach, to be able to share that with people
Hmm.
is even more amazing. But
Yeah.
there's no regrets because God has used all of that for my good, all of it.
Yeah, I love that because that's so true. When you think about your past, and I feel the same way.
Mhm.
There have been some really crappy times, but
Yeah.
some really good things have come out of that. And if I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have had those times, you're right. Like, who knows where we would have ended up? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we are here in this moment because of those things that happened to us in the past. So I
Exactly.
wouldn't change anything either.
Me
That's a really good
either.
way to look at
It really is. I don't know why my brain just keeps going back to this moment when we were
it.
living in Germany, and I have a Sandy Change video out there on the Crusaders for Change website about Eggos and waffles, Eggo waffles, and I always mention this and ramen because that's all we could afford.
Hmm.
And so now when I'm in a grocery store and I see that, I still buy ramen. My daughter likes ramen and she likes to do cool things with it, but I can't eat Eggo waffles anymore because I ate so much when we were broke. So, but now when I see it, it's just I
Yeah.
actually sometimes will stand in front of the freezer in the grocery store and look at the Eggo waffles and be like, oh God, thank you, I made it.
Hmm.
I don't have
Hmm.
to eat just Eggo waffles and ramen. I mean, I'm sure there could have been another
Yeah.
combination of food that we could have bought, hot dogs, whatever it was, but
Right.
at the time that's what I liked
Hmm.
and that's all I could afford. And it's just an honor to know that I can do better. I'm doing better It's just a
Yeah.
reminder, having that constant reminder, it
Right.
humbles
Yeah.
you. It really humbles you.
It really does. And I think we all have that one thing. Cause I know mine is like an air mattress. I will not have an air mattress in my house. Not going to happen because I lived on one for a year and a half.
Mm,
And I'm like, I was so thankful and so grateful when I was able to buy a bed after that, after going
mm,
through divorce and only having a part-time job and all these things. And now I'm so appreciative of just having a home that's
yeah.
really a home,
Hmm.
and I love my home and I love being there and being a part of it, but you will never see an air mattress in my house.
Exactly. So, what are some ways to start the process of getting out of debt?
Gosh, I think number one is recognizing that there's a
Mm,
problem. I think
mm-hmm,
that's always number one is admitting that, something has happened. You're not where you want to be. And then asking for help. That's the great thing about, where we are and having access to so many people who
mm-hmm.
know how to do it better than we do, you
Exactly.
know? And they know how to help us along and they know that sometimes some of us need tough love, some of us need cheerleaders, and having that person who can be there for what we need them to be there for.
Exactly. Because even God even says in his word, 1 Corinthians 16:2, on the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income, saving it up so that when I come, no collections will have to be made. And so that's the story there. And we're talking about how back in those days, people were saving up and, for
Hmm.
taxes and other different things that were going on there. But we too can learn from even back hundreds of years ago how they were doing things that pay
Yeah.
yourself first, all those giving
Hmm.
great tips in personal finances, put away for your savings. And obviously taxes are taken out, but if they're not, pay your taxes, pay your taxes,
Right.
pay your taxes, people. See so many clients coming through that are not paying their taxes.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
but
Hmm.
also prepare for all other different goals that you have, take care of your needs and all that other good stuff. But if you're in
Yeah.
debt, there is a way, like you said, acknowledging it and, saying, okay, I'm in debt.
Hmm.
All right, got it. I accept it.
Hmm.
I honor that whatever reason I'm in debt for, whatever that looks like, hopefully I'll never
Yeah.
get back to that point again, but I can be smart about it and figure out how to pay it off. But it's okay not to be okay, but it's also okay to
Hmm.
ask for help. And us as financial counselors through Crusaders for Change or whatever local organization you have can help you really come up with a plan that you have to stick
Right.
to and you have to work to it.
Hmm.
And it's not overnight that you can get out of
Exactly.
debt. Because I see people thinking they're going to pay off something in a couple months, and I'm like, this is going to take a couple years. you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we have clients too who think we have a magic wand and we
yeah,
can just like wave it and we have some magical system, yeah, that will make it go away in a week or, I want all these things plus I
yeah.
want to be out of debt. And it's one of those things where yeah, you have to be able to put the work in and you have to be ready to put the work in. And I think that's something we see so much is we see somebody who's like, I'm in the red every month. I don't know how to get out of it, but they're
Mm,
going to have really nice dinners twice a week or,
exactly.
they're, and it's like you have to put the sacrifice in, but you have to realize too, it's not going to be forever.
Yeah, exactly.
There's light at the end of the tunnel and it's going to be better and you're going to be better for it too.
Exactly. There has to be sacrifice and discipline, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be able to have the discipline to stick to your plan. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, there's going to be things that happen, and you're like, might not be able to make a payment. Hopefully, you do, but or like you say, you might have extra payments that you're supposed to be making to, so you might not be able to
Yeah.
make it this month because something else comes up. But then you just kick
Mm-hmm.
back right into the plan the next month, so you
Right.
can constantly just pay it off as slowly or
Mm-hmm.
fast as you can so you can get to the point of having no debt, and
Yeah.
it was such a beautiful feeling when I paid off my student loans, when I pay off my car, all these
Mm-hmm.
different debts that I've had that, as Americans, sometimes we can't get away from, unless you just save, which is possible too, and just buy things outright, but be able
Mm-hmm.
to do that and then put that extra money towards another goal. That's such a
Yeah.
beautiful feeling.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing feeling. And then something else too that I think with working with clients, when we have clients who have debt and they're trying to work through these things,
Mm,
you know, I always remind them that it's okay for the rest of their family to be on a budget too and to
Exactly.
work towards it,
Yeah.
because it takes everybody as a team to come together,
Mm-hmm.
and these are great lessons we can teach our children too, while we're going through this. Like, mom and dad made a mistake, it happens. This is what we're going to do to fix it. Nobody's perfect. So
Exactly.
I think, if we recognize that it's not just us, we're not
Mm.
alone, that everybody can make those adjustments and can help. And I think a lot of times it brings families closer together too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was amazing. From debt to destiny, there's definitely a chance for all of us to go from debt to destiny and really just be able to live that financial freedom and just feel like we're not being bogged down by, the loans, the credit card debt, and whatever it may be that's in the debt realm that's holding you down, that you feel like it's holding you back. I know a lot of clients say that it's just holding me back, or they don't
Hmm.
even want to look at their student loans or their credit card debt. They're like, oh,
Yep.
I'll pay it off whenever. Let's just focus on now. Like, no, we need to pay this debt off today. So there's definitely a path to destiny, and us at Crusaders for Change can help you get there. So, any final thoughts, Vanessa?
Just know that you're not alone, and people have done it before, and they are better on the other side.
You're
So
better
it's
on the
totally
other side.
possible.
Exactly. It's a possibility, and it's definitely available to all of us to be able to make that happen. So, well, thank you for joining us for another episode of Yahweh's Money, From Debt to Destiny. You can tune into current and future episodes of Yahweh's Money wherever podcasts are found, including Apple, Google, and Spotify. Please email us at Yahweh@crusaders4change.org if you have any questions. Thank you for joining us today. And remember, it's always better Yahweh's way. Thank you for listening to this episode of Yahweh's Money. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the crossroads of religion and money. If you have any questions or suggestions of topics you would like to hear us tackle, please email us at Yahweh@crusaders4change.org. Also, we would love to hear your feedback on today's episode, so please leave us a review and remember to subscribe to our podcast. To hear all of Yahweh's Money's latest episodes, please visit us at www.crusaders4change.org or wherever podcasts are found. God bless.